Okay, I want to bring you some really big news that we got just as we were going to air tonight. So much of the news from this White House has to do with differing aspects of the Trump-Russia investigation and the questions about what happened in the 2016 election, and also the generalized chaos that has marked this president's first 6 months in office. But while all of that plays out, the administration is also going about the business of implementing policy. And tonight, we're getting the first glimpse of something truly radical that this administration is preparing to do. The New York Times reports that the Justice Department plans to take on affirmative action in college admissions. Quote, the Trump administration is preparing to redirect resources of the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division toward investigating and suing universities over affirmative action admissions policies deemed to discriminate against white applicants, according to a document obtained by the New York Times. The document, an internal announcement to the Civil Rights Division, seeks current lawyers interested in working for a new project on investigations and possible litigation related to intentional race-based discrimination in college and university admissions. What the New York Times is describing tonight is a Justice Department operating in a way that is radically different under Attorney General Jeff Sessions. The initiative to uproot affirmative action appears to be coming not from the career staff at the Justice Department, but from the political appointees. That raises questions about whether career staff in the Civil Rights Division will begin leaving the Justice Department rather than staying on and carrying out a mission that has gone upside down from what it used to be. Now, already the Justice Department has changed sides on key issues like the Texas voter ID law, going from challenging the law under President Obama to dropping the matter. Under Obama, the Justice Department moved aggressively in support of gay rights. Now, the Justice Department argues that civil rights law does not protect gay people at all. And tonight, we have this new reporting that the Justice Department intends to use resources from the Civil Rights Division to go against affirmative action. And check out the timeline here. The memo calls for lawyers who would like to be involved in the anti-affirmative action project to submit their resumes by August 9th. Joining us now is Charlie Savage, the New York Times reporter who broke this story tonight. Mr. Savage, thanks for your time. This directive that's coming out to switch sides on affirmative action, it talks about going after universities. In your reporting, are there specific universities in mind? Are they talking about actually suing colleges and universities over their policies?
They're definitely talking about suing colleges and universities, but they're also talking about first investigating them. Of course, that could also have a great chilling effect, as universities don't want the weight of the Justice Department brought against them. I don't think that they've gotten far enough yet to identify specific initial targets. What they're trying to do now is staff up for this new project. They're looking for people who are already working for the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division who would like to go after universities and colleges based on race-based admission policies, affirmative action. And but they haven't picked those people yet. And one of the interesting things about this is a project that is going to be run out of the front office of the Civil Rights Division. That's where the political appointees, the people selected by President Trump and Attorney General Sessions, work. And that's even though the Civil Rights Division has an entire section that's devoted to enforcing anti-discrimination laws in schools and universities, but they're bypassing that. That section is full of career people, civil servants who have been spending years working on enforcing these laws, and they apparently just don't either trust those people or those people don't want to have anything to do with it. So this is going to be a side project run out of the political appointees' shop.
And did you get a sense of who is initiating this? Is this coming out of Jeff Sessions? Is this something that we're getting from the Miller-Bannon wing in the White House? Do you have a sense of where this initiative is coming from?
I would be lying if I said I know exactly who came up with the idea. The Civil Rights Division has had one acting head who was, until last week, Thomas Wheeler, who was the general counsel to Vice President Pence when he was the governor of Indiana. He just left that position, and a new acting head has taken over, another political appointee. I should hasten to say, though, that I think this is the kind of thing that one expects to see, especially in recent decades, during Republican administrations. You know, we spent a lot of time sussing out the weird things that are happening that seem to be unique to Trump, that wouldn't happen if it was President Marco Rubio or President Jeb Bush or something like this. But the Civil Rights Division is a sort of hot potato that during Republican administrations in general has a dramatic pendulum swing. And so it may very well be that any Republican president would have presided over a civil rights division that does some of these things that you talked about in your introduction. Certainly during the George W. Bush administration, the Civil Rights Division was a major battleground for culture war clashes between career liberal staff who were interested in enforcing civil rights laws in a traditional manner and political appointees who were coming in trying to take it in the opposite direction.
Yeah, and those of us who lived in Florida remember that as Governor Jeb Bush, who wanted to be president, ended affirmative action by decree, including in university admissions. So yes, you're right. This is sort of a Republican thing. Charlie Savage, the New York Times reporter who broke this story tonight. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.